Welcome to Seattle Revival Center. If we haven't met yet, my name is Pastor Darren, one of the pastors here. That was Pastor Greg. It's so good to have you here. Any first-timers here? Wave real high. Awesome. Welcome. We just want to welcome you this morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Awesome, awesome. If this is your first or second time, see us after the service. Come hang out with us at the Welcome Center at the back. We have a special gift for you. We got a neat little, it's a highly coveted coffee mug that's incredibly cool. I don't even have one. They won't give one to me. You have to be a visitor, so take advantage of that. So that's good. How many of you were able to be a part of Supernatural School? Wave your hand real high. Sweet. Awesome. A lot of you. So good. You're in for a real treat this morning. We just have a real sweetheart here, sweethearts here this morning. Justin Abraham is here, and he's going to be teaching this morning, and Jane Shorter is here, and she's just a wild woman, just a little Joan of Arc in the spirit. She's just awesome, and her nickname is Shredder. Yeah, isn't it cool? The Bible says the violent take it with force, right? Today is also Mission Sunday, so when you look up and you see all the flags, you know what you see? You see God's heart. When you look at the nations, oftentimes we tend to only think about ourselves, don't we? You know, it's just something about humanity in the heart, and people tend to only think about ourselves. But you know, the Lord, there's a lot going on in the nations right now, and you can kind of feel. How many of you are feeling a responsibility when you watch the news right now? And there's so much going on in Iraq and Israel, you know, and then the whole thing with the Ukraine, and you know what the Lord's heart is crying? Justice. The heart of the Father is crying justice. And so if you're feeling like a weighty responsibility to begin standing in the gap as a high priest, that Martin Luther taught the doctrine of the priesthood of believers, you know, which means that we have a responsibility to go up and to begin standing in the gap and standing with these nations. And so I don't want to take a lot of time on that, but I believe as we go forward in the next few weeks, we're going to start spending a lot more time in prayer, covering our country and covering the nations of the world. So I'd say that to plant a seed in your own heart, because I feel like our hearts are being expanded. And so we're just going to start coming before the throne room and really seeking the heart of God and praying his will for the nations. Is that good? You guys down for that? That sounds kind of cool, doesn't it? Speaking of justice in the nations, Kinsey and Kelsey recently returned from Mozambique, and they got to see God do justice through them. And I would like for them to come. We are going to take a missions offering. So we do this once a month. We don't take up special offerings for golden fountains or new curtains, but we do take a special offering that goes to the nations, okay? So we will be doing that. But and today's offering is going to be designated to the 5K Love Walk. So we're actually going to be buying shoes and socks for I believe 460 orphans. And so today's offering is going to be going towards that. And I want you to pray and ask the Lord how much you should give today. And I want you to dream big today. Is that good? Kinsey and Kelsey, let's welcome them. Go through the back. Awesome. All right. So glad we finally get you girls to share. Take your time, make yourself at home.
Okay. How is everyone today? Good? Worship was good this morning. It kind of was a reminder of Mozambique for me. The environment was so much like it, so it was nice. So Kinsey and I both have some stories we wanted to share this morning, but I'm going to share first. And those of you who are friends with me on Facebook probably have seen some of this story about a special little baby that we got to minister to. But for those of you who haven't, I'm going to just share the whole story. We, in the afternoons, got a ton of free time to go do whatever God told us to do. And one day, a group of friends and I think there were 4 of us, just decided to go to the dump in Mozambique. And it's a little different than an American dump. You can kind of just go, and there's trash piled everywhere, and it's all being burnt. And we just kind of walked through and ministered to people as we went through. And God kind of led us to a village up on a hill. And without thinking, we all went the same exact direction to a house, like off on a cliff. And it was kind of hidden, like looking back, like there was no real reason that's where we should have ended up. And a woman came out of her house and like brought us into this tiny 6x6 room, and she pointed to a rope bed. And we were like, okay, what's going on? And there was like a bundle of clothes on this bed. And they were dirty. And we were like, okay, what's going on? And she lifted them, and there was a baby underneath the clothes. And she goes on to tell us, we had a translator with us, that the baby was 5 days old. And we had a midwife with us. She just so happened to be a midwife. And she examined the baby and said, wow, this baby looks really healthy. But we all noticed that something was wrong with his eyes. And they were completely black all the way through. There was no white. They were just black. And like if you put a hand in front of his face, he wouldn't move to your hand. He wouldn't look at you. Nothing would change like if you did anything. So we thought, wow, this seems odd, but didn't really think anything of it until later on in the story. And we asked the mom, what's the name of your baby? And she told us, he doesn't have a name. We don't name our babies for 30 days because he's probably going to die. And we were like, in Jesus' name, this baby's not going to die. And we're going to make sure of that with Jesus. And we actually left and went and bought them rice and some supplies. And we're like, we're going to come back Saturday. And we came back with like a group of 8 people on Saturday. And they were all from my house, the people I was living with. And we brought chicken. And there just so happened we had 6 chickens and probably fed 100 people. Like everyone got a piece of chicken, which really shouldn't have happened. And everyone was full and there was chicken left over. Yeah. So as Heidi Baker says, there is always enough and there's always more than enough. But my house mom ended up holding the baby and she was like, we're going to name this baby, so everyone pray. And we all decided on the name Abraham Enoch, a man that walks in faith and will never die. And we were like, this baby's not going to die. And I had been holding him before and his eyes were still black and I was thinking it was weirder. And then all of a sudden, babies, are tiny, they sleep all the time. And he fell asleep and when my house mom was praying for him, she goes, wow, his eyes are beautiful. And we were like, what? And she was like, they're beautiful. What are you talking? Haven't you seen his eyes? And we were like, no. And they were bright crystal blue eyes. So, yeah, it was amazing just to see his name be declared over him and God bring him eyesight. And we went back to the same place twice a week for the whole time we were there. And we ended up doing a children's service and we brought tiny little pieces of bread to give all the kids. And we had, I want to say 75 to 85 little pieces of bread. And we were walking through the dump on our way there, and we just started handing out the bread. So by the time we got up to the village where we were going to do the children's service, we had probably 25 pieces. And no one thought anything of it, and we just did this children's service and had about 150 to 200 kids, all who received Jesus and were baptized in the Spirit in that moment. And we had a few kids kind of fall out in the joy of the Lord just laughing, which was really cool. But we ended up just handing out the pieces of bread to the kids in line, and we handed it out to every single kid and got to the last 2, and I was like, we didn't have enough bread for this. What happened? And I looked in, and there were 2 pieces of bread, and we had enough for every single kid, and every kid to have a piece of candy. Yeah. So it was just great. And now Abraham, we were there to see him be his month-and-a-half birthday. We were there, and right about now he's celebrating 3 months. So God sustained him, and they're actually starting a church in the dump now, and it's been amazing to see the village transform. A second story, just kind of fun, Jesus having fun with us. Kinsey and I had a really close friend while we were there who left worship every day just covered in glitter. She was just an amazing laid-down lover. And we were all sitting around a table one day, and there was a girl who was like, I was at YWAM, and we all could stick pennies to the wall and all this different stuff to the wall, just Jesus having fun with us. And she's like, but I haven't been able to do it. And she just kind of walked away, and I looked at Kinsey, and I was like, let's do it. And so we proceeded to sit in the kitchen trying to stick pennies to the wall for how long do you think it was? Like 3 hours. We just sat there trying to stick, and the penny would keep falling off the wall. And Kinsey goes, you know, everyone always stops one time short of having God show up. And she was like, so one more time, and she sticks it, and it sticks for about 30 seconds. And we were like, okay, it's going to work, it's going to work. So we did it like twice more after that, and nothing happened. And we were like, no, this is going to work. And we stuck it one more time, and it stuck for about 30 minutes until Kinsey decided she was going to try and flick it off, and it wouldn't flick, and she actually had to peel it off the wall. It wouldn't come off. So just a lot of fun.
Yeah, so like our friend ran up to Kelsey one day, because Kelsey loves science and stuff, and was like, is it scientifically possible for somebody to sweat glitter? And she was like, you mean like scientifically or with Jesus? She's like, is there any scientific explanation? And she was like, I don't think so. And so she was like sweating glitter all the time. And then we started sweating glitter, and everybody we talked to started like, every time they'd look at their hands, they were like sparkly. And so far, every person I've told it to since we got back has also looked at their hands and been like, oh wow, you're right, there are sparkles. So if your hands are clammy, look for glitter. Yeah, so that was just really cool. And we had like a kind of testimony within my house. One of the first weeks, a girl in my house and I started talking about just the things that you've believed God for healing for in the past, that you just kind of get worn down after not seeing healing. And so a bunch of people in our house had different things that they were like, oh yeah, when I was 5, I told my parents like that God was going to heal me, but after that, like, you go to services and people are like, stand up if you need healing, and it doesn't work over and over again, so we've kind of just given up in a sense. And so we were like, that's not right, we have to keep contending for it. And one of the girls in my house had scoliosis, and they had prayed for her on the airplane when we got there, and it was like something that her parents wanted to have her get surgery for, but she was like, no, Jesus is going to heal me, since she was like 10. So she kept telling them not to do it, and it was just really like hard on her family. And so when we got to this point, after she and I had that conversation, like, our whole house was like, okay, we need to like just start believing God for these things. And one of the girls in our house was like, okay, Mariah, like, we're going to take a picture of you bending over so that we'll have a before shot of your back once God heals it. And we would just keep praying like every day, every time we thought of it. And she kind of had to humble herself and allow us to keep praying for her. And a month later, she was almost 100% healed. So that was just an amazing testimony.